Hi friend, in this video, you're gonna learn 4 chords that go together on the acoustic guitar that will get you playing your favorite songs in no time. We're gonna learn the chords G, D, E minor, and C. And as you can hear there, you could probably maybe even hum some of your songs to that progression. So we're gonna have some teaching aids on the screen like you can see. We're gonna have the chord diagrams like you see there. We're gonna have this close-up view where I'll be going through the fingers one at a time. Now, before we get started, I do want to get a free guide into your hand that you could actually download and have available even beyond this video. So I'm gonna show you what this looks like. It's a simple guide to playing your first 4 chords. It's going to walk you through the finger numbers, which we'll be referencing throughout this video. It's going to give you a key of how to read the chord diagrams. It's going to give you the string names if you don't know those. And then it's going to walk you through the chord diagrams just like we're going to do in this video. But again, you can have these as a reference. Now, one thing that we won't do in this video, in this diagram or in this PDF, there is easy versions of these chords. So if you need a little bit of like an easier road into this, the PDF is going to have some easy versions of these chords. So you can see we're going to walk through C. There's an easy version of C. D, there's not an easy version of D because, again, that's a 4-string chord. It's nice and easy. We'll walk through that one. And then you've got E minor, the same thing there. Nice, easy version of E minor that happens to be the full version as well. Now, to get this guide, just head over to acousticmadesimple.com and you can get that guide completely free. But without further ado, let's dive into this. So we're going to go back to this view here, and we're going to start with G. Now, if you're not familiar with how to read chord diagrams, I have covered this in another video, but I'm going to do a quick review here. The simplest way to think about it is to flip your guitar. It's as if you're looking down at the strings onto your fretboard, this part of the guitar here, and you're reading down. And the easiest way to think about this is to flip the diagram. So if you think about this, I'm not going to do this for all the chords, but if you think about flipping this, you're reading it like this. So again, this is why I say you can even turn your guitar, look at it that way. You don't want to play that way, right? Don't get in the habit of playing your guitar that way where it's super flat. You want it, you want to be looking down on your strings. But if you flip it like this and we form that G chord like this, you could see that is how you're reading those diagrams. So again, I'm going to leave this like this when we do the G here, and then I'll flip that back to how you normally see chord diagrams. So let's start with this. You see there that bottom line, right, represents this first string, the high E string. And we're going to go fret 3. So the frets here are these spaces. The frets are actually the metal bars, but when we talk about playing chords, the frets are the spaces. So we've got 1, 2, 3. You can see there's 2 spaces before we fret. And then the reason there's that 3 in the black dot is that's going to tell us to use this finger here, our ring finger. So we're going to use finger 3 on the 3rd fret of the first string. It's going to be that note there. Now you see there's some spaces. So that means we're leaving these strings. We're leaving our 2nd string, the B string, 3rd string, the G string open, as well as our 4th string, the D string open. That's what those circles are to the left of the diagram there, right below the G. And then our next note that we're fretting is we're going to use finger 1, which is this guy right here, right? Our pointer finger. So that guy right there. And we're going to put it on the 2nd fret, as you could see there. And we're going to use that, the index finger, and that's the reason there's that 1 in the black dot there. So the black dots represent where you're fretting, and then the numbers in the black dots are the fingers to use. And again, once again, that's in that PDF, so make sure you go get that PDF. And then the next note we're fretting is the last one here, our lowest string, which is we refer to as our 6th string. That is going to be using our 2nd finger. That's the reason there's a number 2 in the black dot. So we're going to use our middle finger as our 2nd finger, and we're going to put that right there. So if I get that in view here, you can see on the close-up there, that is what that shape should look like. Now when we strum it, that is what our G chord sounds like. So that's what you should be getting if you've got the right frets and if your guitar is in tune. And by the way, I have done a video on how to tune your guitar. I'll link that when the live stream is finished as well in the description. That's what we should be getting. So everything nice and clear and ringing out. Now, if you are starting out the guitar, you might be getting something that sounds like this. Like some of the notes are dead, or maybe even a lot of them are dead like that, right? Stick around to the video because I will be giving you tips on what to look for as we form the chords. We're going to go through all of them first, and then I'll be giving you tips on just what to look for in terms of problem areas that might be happening on why you're getting dead strings. So what I'm going to do is flip this back, because again, we don't see the chord diagrams often flipped like that. That's just a way you can think about it, is to kind of like turn the diagram, right? If you're having trouble reading it, turn the diagram in your head and think about reading it that way. Another way to think about it, if you're looking them straight, is to essentially like you're putting the guitar that way, right? You're putting the guitar that way if you're matching the diagram there, and then placing your fingers where they go, kind of like a map. Like the chord diagrams are almost like a little treasure map, like where the X marks the spot kind of thing, like where to put your fingers is where those black dots go, and then the numbers again inside are telling you what fingers to use. So let's move on to our next chord. We've got G, and we will do a review of this. You can always pause the video and get that under your fingers. Now let's move on to D. Now this is a full D. However, you'll note there's two X's on the diagram. So this is introducing something new for reading chord diagrams. Those X's on these top two strings, the thickest strings, so that are now to the left of the chord diagram, that means you don't play these two notes. You don't play the thickest string, the sixth string, the one closest to you as you're looking down at the guitar, and you don't play the next string down, the fifth string, which is the A string. You don't play those two notes. So what we do is we just start at our D string, the fourth string, and we strum the bottom four strings. So we're going to strum those four strings. Now to form this, you can see the close-up there. What we're going to do is, again, we're going to take our middle finger, which is finger 2, and we're going to place it on the first string, the high E string. We're going to place it on fret 2, because you see that is where the black dot is in the diagram there. Now, a quick tip on just how to fret as well. We will talk about this when we're problem solving any dead strings, but a quick tip. You want to place it right behind the little metal fret, right? So the fret, once again, is the bar that comes down. You want to place them right behind that. You don't want to be on top of it. You don't want to be too far back as you get this buzzing. So place that middle finger on the second fret right behind the metal bar. That's going to be our first finger. There, you can see. Now, the next string up, we're going to use our ring finger. That's why there's a 3 in the black dot. We're going to place it on fret 3 on our B string. Now we've got that in the top two strings. Now, the next fret up, we're going to go fret 2 again. So we're going to stack these on top of each other like that there. And we're going to go use our index finger, our pointer finger. So we're going to be using finger 1. And we're going to put it as close as possible to that fret again. So it's kind of it feels a little bit scrunched at first when you're learning the D chord, but you want to just get it as close as possible to, once again, the metal fret. If you have to go a little bit back, that's okay, but it should look like this once we've got that formed, and it should sound like this. Get that a little bit closer in view on the close-up there. So there we go. That's what your D chord is going to sound like. All right, let's move on to our next chord, our third chord. This is our E minor chord. Now, this one's kind of nice because you notice all the strings are open, right? You get to strum all 6 strings, and you'll notice we are only fretting down 2 notes, and they happen to be, or we're only fretting 2 frets, I should say, and they happen to be right on top of each other. So we're going to jump now up to our 4th string and our 5th string. So our D string is the 4th string, our 5th string is the A string, and we're going to use our middle finger, and we're going to use our ring finger here, and we're going to place our middle finger on fret 2 of our 5th string. So this string right here, the A string, we're going to place our middle finger there, and then right below that, we're going to place, now notice here, I'm not placing it right behind the fret, and there's a reason for that, is because, again, when you're stacking the frets on top of each other with the strings here, you kind of have to create a little room, right? So it's kind of hard to get that completely there. And so what you want to do here is you're going to use your ring finger, and you're going to place that right below that. So you're going to go ring finger on the 2nd fret, and you're going to go on your 4th string, and the E minor sounds like that. So it's kind of a sad chord, right? It's nice and sad like that. But that's the sound you should be getting for your E minor chord. Now, the 4th chord is our C chord. And again, don't worry, you could always pause the video, get these chords under your belt. I know we're moving kind of fast here, but the idea behind this is you could use this as a reference as you're learning these 4 chords. So now C chord, we're going to start here back on the 1st fret. So this is the first one we encounter where we're actually using the first fret here. We're going to go one string up from the high E string. We're going to go on our B string, the second string. We use our index finger. So we're going to use our pointer finger here. Make sure you got that in view. We're going to go first fret, and then we're going to skip the next string. So we're going to leave this G string open, the third string. We'll leave that open there. You can see that open circle. We're also leaving the high E string open. That's why there's that open circle there towards the top of the diagram. So the next one we're fretting down is we're going to use our middle finger on fret 2 of the D string, the fourth string, this here, so it forms that. Let me get those fingers out of the way. All right. Now we're going to use this finger here. We're going to use our ring finger, and we're going to go fret 3 on the fifth string, the A string. Now we're going to get this. Now you will notice there's an X on the line that's to the left of the chord diagram. That means we don't play this. We don't want to play this bottom E string, the thickest string of the guitar, the sixth string. We don't want to play that. So easiest thing to do is to, again, just start on the fifth string, the A string, and strum down. So that's what your C chord should sound like. You'll notice too, like if you've got thicker fingers like mine, fatter fingers, if you will, I'm using kind of the meaty part of the fingertip here to actually mute that low E string, the sixth string, so that I don't have to worry about it. Like if I'm strumming away, I just know that it's muted. And in this case, we actually want that string muted, so it's okay that it's a dead note. So that's our C chord. So just like that, get that in view for you there. Now, if we review, we've got our G, sounds like this. We've got our D, sounds like that. We've got our E minor. And then we've got our C. Now, a couple things of tips if you are getting dead strings. I've mentioned one of them already. You know, you want to be fretting right behind the metal bar. You don't want to be on top of it. If you go on top of it, you're going to get that muted kind of sound. See how I'm right on top of the metal bar there? You don't want to do that. You don't want to be too far back, because then you're going to get that real nasty sound, right? Let me take that chord diagram off. You're going to get that. And you want to get, again, just be right behind it. Now, a couple other things that can happen is we tend to want to grip the guitar like a baseball bat. So let me try to get that chord there, and I'm going to try to demonstrate this. If we grip it like real hard like a baseball bat, you can often get like dead notes like that because your fingers are lying flat on the strings when you're trying to fret. A lot of times this happens with G. So if I put the G back up, a lot of times this happens because we do things like this. You hear that, right? It's not a very pleasing sound. So what you want to do, I've talked about this in other videos as well, is you want to, I call it the tennis ball trick. You want to think like you're holding a tennis ball or whatever smaller ball. I mean, insert your sport of choice, right? Baseball, whatever it may be, or even a little bouncy ball. You want to think of like, if you place a ball in your palm, think about trying to keep that ball there. And what it's going to do is it's going to force you to curve your fingers out, which is the posture we want to have. We want to have curved fingers so that we're getting to use our fingertips, right? We want to be using just the fingertips when we're fretting these notes. And so if you think about keeping a ball there, like if you try to visualize having a ball there, you could even take, I wouldn't advise doing it with a tennis ball because it's a little big, right? But if you get a little like bouncy ball, try to actually keep it there. It could actually be a good practice to kind of force you to curve your fingers out. And what you want to do with the thumb is when you're first learning, you will see a lot of guitar players, even myself, right? I'll do this and I'll kind of keep the thumb curved over the top like that. And that's just because, again, I have thick fingers, but you want to try to discipline yourself to keep your thumb kind of in the middle of the chord that you're forming. So in the case of the G, I would place the thumb right behind this second fret and go like this. And try to keep your thumb, again, rather than gripping the guitar like a baseball bat, keep your thumb pointed up towards the ceiling. And that'll ensure that you're getting on your fingertips. So again, that's just a good rule of practice, a rule of thumb, if you will, to get into, is just to point your thumb upwards, right? Try to keep it in the middle of the chord that you're forming, and that'll force you to kind of roll your fingers. And you want to just think of having a nice curve when you're fretting these notes. Now, you might have noticed, okay, as we're going through this, I am strumming, right? And you might go, oh man, like, what do I do about strumming? Especially if we're talking about getting to play songs. So let's do this. I'm going to take this off here. I'm going to take this off. And let's just talk about strumming for a moment here. Now, a real simple strumming pattern when you're first learning, and let's say you don't even have a pick. You don't have a pick, right? A pick is this little guy here, a plectrum. Let's say you don't even have one of those. You don't know how to hold it. That is totally okay when you're learning. You can just use your thumb. And so you can simply just go down like this, take your thumb, and just do down strums. So when you strum down the string, starting at the thickest one, working your way to your thinnest string. Now, to practice changing these chords, right? It's great to learn them individually and you learn them in isolation, but if we want to get to playing songs, you want to be able to play them one after the other, right? So you can take your shapes and you can go, okay, you got those down. Now you can take the simple strumming pattern and just go as slow as you need to go. This is the trick here, right? Don't try to go fast right away. Go as slow as you need to go. And I would do 4 down strums on each chord and then try to change to the next one. So for example, we're going to take our G, we're going to go G, 2, 3, 4, change to the D, 3, 4 to the E minor, and then the C. Now the trick here is to go as slow as you need to go. Don't try to go fast. Go as slow as you need to go to change smoothly to the next one while keeping the same rhythm, the same time, right? So a lot of people when they're learning, they'll do stuff like this. They'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, up, stop. Oh man, what was that chord again? And then they'll change. And the bad habit that gets us into is when we're talking about wanting to learn songs, right? Songs happen in time. Music happens in time. So if we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh man, what was the next chord? It's kind of training us to go, okay, keep really bad time when we actually get to learning songs. So I would go as slow as you need to go, even if it's like, seems painfully slow, like 1, 2, 3, 4, then change. You hear how that rhythm stays the same, right? And then eventually what's going to happen, I promise you, is if you keep this practice habit up where you go as slow as you need to go, the speed will come over time. So eventually you'll be like changing, right? Because it's a lot of muscle memory. It's a lot of muscle memory that happens, right? So just go as slow as you need to go and let the speed rise over time. Now, a couple other just maybe quick tips thinking about doing these changes is you want to think about the movement that's happening. So for example, when we go from the G, and let me put this close up back again, when we go from the G, this chord here to the D, you want to think about, okay, what movement is happening? And oftentimes too, like sometimes even think about, are there any notes that are staying the same? But even if they're not staying the same, try to think about, okay, what's the movement that's happening with my fingers? So what I mean by that is for G, for example, right? We're starting here. And then to get to our D, you can think about, okay, this finger right here is just going 1 string up. And then these 2 are moving down. And what'll often happen is, people they'll be strumming their chord and then they'll completely take their hand off and then strum the next one. And a lot of times when you're learning, this happens because we do get fatigue, right? It's going to take some time to build up these calluses on the tips of your fingers, but I promise you, it does hurt now, especially on a steel string acoustic guitar. It does hurt a little bit when you're first starting, but I promise you these calluses will start to build up and that pain will slowly go away as you put in practice time day after day. But try to get out of the habit of like taking your hand off the fretboard and try to think about, okay, what's the minimal amount of movement that's happening to get to that next chord? So think about that again, from the G to the D, this finger is moving up, these fingers are moving down. And the beauty of this is you could even practice these movements. Let's say you're like with your family, watching something and you don't want to make a noise on the acoustic guitar, or maybe siblings or something like that, or sleeping, family members are sleeping. You want to think about, okay, I want to practice this. So you can go, okay, what is the minimal amount of movement? So you can just sit there and go without strumming. You can make that movement happen, right? And then you can go, okay, think about moving to the C, right? This finger moves down, those fingers move up, and then your E minor, like this one moves up, that one slides. You can try to just practice those movements and try to be, again, as minimal as possible, where you're not lifting your whole hand off of the fretboard, but you're visualizing those minimal movements. So that's just a few tips there. Now, I want to say this. Once you've got the progression of those chords down, try to just flip the order of them. So you don't have to always go G, D, E minor, C. You know, what if you started with E minor, C, then went to D, G? Now, the songs, I mean, there's hundreds of songs that are made up of these 4 chords in different orders, right? You could just Google that, simply type in, 4-chord songs, key of G, and you'll get an endless list of popular songs that'll come up. So you'll be well on your way to playing your favorite songs in no time. Well, my friend, I hope this video has been helpful. Once again, I just want to reiterate here, head over to acousticmadesimple.com, get your free guide, and with that, I will see you in the next video. Take care and keep on learning. You've got this. See you in the next one.